for joining us. We've got Peter Nimrod, Chief Engineer for the Mississippi Levee Board, on the line. Hey, Peter.
Hey, good morning.
All right, so give us an update. Looks like we may get a dab of federal funding to get some pumps going there in the Delta.
Yeah, we've had some really good news. As you know, this has been a long battle. The Yazoo Backwater Project authorized way back in 1941, and we started construction in 1986, and we've had highs and lows ever since. That project got stopped in 1986, and we tried again in 2007 with a new project, and it got vetoed by EPA. And then we had backwater flood after backwater flood, as you well know. And in 2019, we had 548,000 acres underwater in the South Delta, and 686 homes got flooded. 3 highways were underwater. The flood lasted not a week; it lasted about 6 months, and the people finally realized what backwater flooding was all about and how devastating it was, not only to people's homes getting flooded and highways underwater, but to the farmers and to the economy of the South Delta and to the wildlife and to the trees. And so it was a real eye-opening experience, as you know, and so work began on trying to revive that plan. And it was successful. 2020, we had a new plan come out, basically the same as before, and in 2021, it got re-vetoed because it just was too similar. And then in 2022, the Biden's White House for Council of Environmental Quality came to the area, looked at it. His new EPA administrator came. His Assistant Secretary of the Army of Civil Works came and saw the area, saw the people, talked to them, and they decided they need to do something about this. How can we fix this? And so in 2022, they really started looking at this closely. And instead of the Corps of Engineers, coming up with a project and saying, here's the project, and then having other federal agencies like EPA and Fish and Wildlife Service, critique it, they decided, let's put them all in the same room together and let's come up with a plan that they can all live with it. And so that's kind of what happened. So in 2023, all these agencies came back to the Delta, met with people, met with the engineers, met with the people who live in the area, have lived through these floods. They also met with some of the environmentalists that have opposed the project throughout history to figure out what they were coming from. And at the end of the day, they came up with a new plan. And the new plan was vetted through an environmental impact statement. They had the draft report came out in June of this year, and they just finalized the environmental impact statement. It came out last Friday, November 29th. And we had to give up a little more protection to get this project to work. We're trying to compromise with the environmentalists. So instead of the pump coming on at 80 feet like back in the 80s, we had compromised to 87 feet in 2007. Now we're compromising to 90 feet. So we've given up basically 10 feet of protection. That means the pumps will never cut on until we get to 90 feet during the crop season, and that means there's about 156,000 acres underwater before we ever turn the pump on. But the pump is a larger pump, a 25,000 cubic feet per second pump that could actually hold the water level at 90 feet during the crop season. And that's huge because, as you know, we got to 98.2 feet in 2019, and that's when you had 550,000 acres underwater. So we are really pleased with it. We are really excited about it. We are glad that the Corps could work with the EPA and the Fish and Wildlife Service in coming up with a new plan that's really going to work for the Mississippi South Delta, not only for our people and the farming community, but also the environment and for the wildlife.
Interesting. So, what are the next steps? I mean, when does construction, I guess, start, and how long might it last?
Well, this is an interesting project, as you know, and so the next step in this process is that the record of decision will get signed by the Corps of Engineers to allow this project to move forward. And we're thinking that record of decision should be signed sometime in mid-January of 2025, in a month and a half. So once that record of decision is signed, the Corps is basically saying we have done all of our environmental studies and we are ready to move forward with engineering and design. So the next thing will happen is we will need money from Congress to give to the Corps of Engineers to start the preliminary engineering and design, and to also start acquiring the mitigation land. This, again, is a unique project because on the front end, the EPA and the Fish and Wildlife Service said, hey, we'd love to get this mitigation land up front and get it developed before we even start construction on the project. So the Corps went outside its box of how they acquire mitigation land, and we're really looking, working with our other partners like Ducks Unlimited, the Nature Conservancy, Delta Wildlife, and looking at helping acquire the mitigation land up front, and then also starting to develop it. So they're going to be working on that as soon as they get money to start that process of acquiring the mitigation land. Also, the Corps at the same time will be starting the engineering and design for the pump structure itself. And then we're thinking in about 3 years, once the mitigation has been acquired and developed, and the plans have been engineered and designed, that we will start construction. And I'm just assuming it'll probably take about 3 or 4 more years to get it constructed. So we're still a ways away. We're still probably 7-8 years away from cutting the ribbon on the pump station. But the light is there. The light is in the tunnel, and it's coming. And we can't be more thrilled than that, for sure.
How do you see that changing the area, Peter? I mean, might we see more people migrate to the area to live, or would it affect business formation? What do you think the outcome will be?
I think the world will be different. The farm. We're a farming community, so the farmland is always going to be there. That security blanket will be there. They know they will be able to plant a crop every year from this point forward. Yeah. Before you're in doubt, and before you don't know if you need to wait and plant a late crop, or what you need to do, or you might not get to plant a crop at all like you did in 2019 or 2020. So it'll be huge for that part. So the 100-year flood in the South Delta is about 100.5 feet today. With the pump in place, this thing's going to drop way down to, below 95 feet. So that's a huge difference there, protecting all the homes in the area, protecting the highways. You can definitely, save money on flood insurance because you'll be, the 100-year flood will be dropping. You can build your house up above that and save money on flood insurance. You can get to your house, you can get to work. The roads will be, not underwater. Yes, there's no chance whatsoever today for any kind of industry in the area because, who wants to build something and invest that kind of money if they think it's going to flood, because we are subject to flooding. Yeah. So once you get that protection in place, yes, there is finally an opportunity for industry, for businesses to open up without the fear of actually flooding.
You have very eloquently described the remaining process. Do you expect any roadblocks at this point? Could something really gum up the works here? Well,
number one, it costs money. You have to get money from Congress, but we've got a great Mississippi congressional delegation, and they are always supportive of flood control projects in Mississippi, and I suspect we will get the money we need. That I don't think that's going to be a problem. We will, probably get sued by the environmental community, but at this point, we will be on the side of the table with the Corps and the EPA and the Fish and Wildlife Service and all the federal agencies against the extremist environmentalists.
Okay.
That's it. So it's not like they've got somebody they're pulling on their side to help fight. They're going to be on their own versus all of us. So that'll happen, but that's a much better position to be in than in the past.
Because that's been the primary objection, has it not? Environmental concerns.
Right, and if you've ever been to the area or you've ever seen the area, that's a bunch of hogwash.
Exactly.
And what we're getting and what we see is people fighting the project from thousands of miles away, and it's a poster child for environmental projects to help raise money. And so what they love to do is throw missiles at us from 1,000 miles away, talk bad about the project, misinformation to raise money. And that I totally kind of understand that, unfortunately. Yeah. But so they've never come to the area during a flood event, so they don't see the damage that happens to the environment. They don't want to see it. they would prefer to stay away, throw missiles at us, collect the money, and not really know the truth. But in one sense, I actually understand it, but it is disappointing.
Yeah. Well, we certainly appreciate you calling in and giving us an update. Hopefully we're all systems go here and get this thing done. Appreciate it, Peter.
Yes, sir. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You bet. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back in the